Hi people, welcome to the Run Testers, and in this video we're getting stuck into two of ASICS big hitting daily cruisers. We have got the ASICS Gel Nimbus 26 and the Kayano 31. Both shoes pack big midsole stacks, plush uppers, and they're built for cruising your daily miles in cushion comfort. The ASICS Gel Kayano adds stability features to provide extra support and prevent overpronation, but in some ways those stability elements are really quite subtle, and you could argue that the Kayano it's basically a more stable spin on the neutral Nimbus. So with just $5 between them on price, how do you know which of these cushion dailies might suit your running best? Well, watch on for our ASICS Gel Kayano 31 versus ASICS Gel Nimbus 26 review. First up, some quick key details then. Well, the Gel Kayano 31 stack height stays the same as the Kayano 30 with 40 mils on the heel, 30 mils on the forefoot for a 10 mil drop. The Gel Nimbus 26 packs 42 mils in the heel, 4 mils in the forefoot for a larger stack but a lower 8 mil drop. When it comes to weight, in our UK test size 8.5 shoe, the Kayano 31 tips the scales at 11 ounces or 312 grams. The Nimbus 26 weighs in at 11.1 ounces or 314 grams. So there's very little to choose between them on weight. On price, the ASICS Gel Kayano 31 has jumped up $5 over the previous generation. It's now $165. It's still £180 in the UK. That makes them slightly pricier though in the US than the ASICS Gel Nimbus, which comes in at $160 or £180 in the UK. Let's do that thing where we give you a quick shoe comparison then. Like the past gen shoes, the Nimbus 26 and the Kayano 31 still share much of the same design DNA. That's because the changes to the Kayano are minimal. You've basically got a new outsole with more breathable uppers. The Nimbus 26 and the Kayano 31 follow a similar midsole setup with the same combination of super soft Flight Foam Blast plus Eco Foam. I don't know how many are going to get more names into these foam names, but anyway. They've also got pure gel heel inserts, essentially some springy rebounding material that's placed at the heel to create softer, more cushioned landings and soak up a bit more of that impact, particularly if you land further back in the shoe. The Kayano 31 has a lower midsole stack. There's 2 mil less heel in the less foam, I should say, in the heel, and 4 mil less under the forefoot. Now, a bigger stack tends to mean less stable ride, so that makes sense. The Kayano 31 also features ASICS 4D guidance system, which is a combination of elements designed to support the foot each time it hits the ground for better stability. Now, this includes a more pronounced heel bevel, a sculpted midsole, and additional medial foam that guides your foot on landing. Up top, both the ASICS shoes feature quite thick, dense, but pliable uppers. You've got gusseted tongues on both shoes. The Kayano 31 has new, more breathable engineered mesh to increase the ventilation on the run. The Nimbus 26 has engineered stretch knit uppers. The heel packages here are almost identical with big padded collars. The tongues are similarly plush too. You've got about the same thickness and comfort. The only thing to note really is the Nimbus 26 are knitted and they're slightly more pliable, I would say slightly more flimsy even. Now, if you flip both shoes over, they both have generous coverings of updated hybrid ASICS grip rubber. That's been tweaked to improve grip and durability. The grip patterns are different with more grooves cut into the Kayano 31. The rubber on the 31 also looks a bit thicker in places too. Okay, first up, quick look at fit then. Well, the Kayano 31, you've got a good thumb's width of room at the end of the toe box. There's also lots of flex here, wiggle room for the toes. It's a nice flexible upper. They feel nice and spacious. Moving back into the laces, I get good lockdown. Again, I'm always looking at across these kind of two toe knuckles. They hold nicely here, but they don't restrict, and there's enough flex here for movement and room, and that is a really nice fit. Back up the laces, I've got really good solid lockdown across the top of the midfoot. You've got this sort of medium padded tongue that's quite flexible, but takes any edge off the laces. Super comfortable here. Back into the heel collars, nice and plush, big comfort, good hold. Just stay put really nicely. I have no movement there at all, and overall the fit on this one is pretty good. When you go into the Nimbus 26, it's a pretty similar story actually. You've got a good thumbs width. Again, these uppers are nice and stretchy and nice and flexible. There feels like there's plenty of room. It makes the overall shoe in the toe box feel nice and roomy and voluminous. And again, back into the areas of the toe knuckle, these very, very similar to the Kayano 31s in terms of how they hold without restricting, which is a bit of flex here. You're not going to get any sort of trouble in that section, which is great. The laces here, one area, I'm going to get good lockdown across the top of the midfoot here. They hold really nicely. I think you can see there's a little bit more sort of squeezing going on to get that sort of tight lockdown. And the one thing I did find is this sort of knitted tongue, it takes a little bit of dragging to get it into position. It's a little bit more fussy and a bit more fiddly. It's just a bit more sort of pliable, is a polite word of saying sort of flimsy. Back into the heel collars, it's the same drill as the Kayano 31. Almost identical in terms of the way that they hold and feel and pad. In terms of the fit, if anything, I would say that the Kayano 31 just has a little bit more room and volume in the toe box, so it feels a bit more spacious. This one, the Nimbus 26, feels a bit more snug. But overall, I would recommend running in your regular running shoe size in both of these shoes. As you can see, I ran in a UK 8.5, which is what I'd normally run in an ASICS, and I think the fit on both of these is really comfy and spacious and really well played from ASICS.
So the fit for me in these two shoes, pretty easy. I find these shoes to be very, very comfortable. Both of them have a lot of padding. They're very similar in many ways in how the shoe is formed, the materials, the midsole, everything like that is very similar in these shoes. And I would say that I'm a size 8 in the UK. Both of these shoes I found to fit very, very well. I definitely stick to my size in both of these shoes. There's plenty of space in the forefoot for wiggle room of the toes, and I had no issues at all. So nice, easy one for me. Stick to my size in the UK. Both very comfortable shoes with no issues.
So it comes to fit of the two shoes. I've actually got different sizes with these. I've got a UK 8.5 in the Kayano and a UK 9 in the Nimbus. Now, across ASICS' range, a UK 9 is what I generally go for. That's the right size for me in shoes like the Super Blast 2, the Metaspeed, Sky and Edge and Magic Speed. But in the big cushion shoes, I did find the UK 9 was a little bit big with Gel Nimbus 26, and it wasn't really a problem, but just a little bit too much room. I don't need that much room in the shoe, so I tried an 8.5 in the Kayano, and it fits me better. So if you're someone who's also on the fence between two different sizes, I'd probably go for the smaller one. They are quite roomy shoes, but at the same time, having a big roomy fit in a shoe like this isn't a problem. It's a big cushion shoe. It's nice to have a lot of comfort at the front there as well if you prefer a bit more room. Found the fit around the heel and midfoot to be all good for me. No kind of slippage or rubbing or anything like that. So yeah, no real problems with the fit of either shoe, but I would suggest if you are in between two sizes, go for the smaller one, as it's quite a roomy one, I found.
So in testing, I've logged at least 30 miles in each of these shoes. I did a little more in the ASICS Gel Nimbus 26. I focused most of my testing at the easier low and slow end, but I logged some faster intervals within those runs to test the pace range and the versatility. As usual, my test miles were mainly on road with the occasional excursion onto the light off-road park and river paths to test that stability. I also did a side-by-side mile where I ran 1 mile with one shoe on each foot to get a better sense of the differences between the shoes. And here's what I found. So then I've just done the side-by-side mile. I've got the ASICS Gel Kayano 31 on the left foot. I've got the ASICS Gel Nimbus 26 on the right foot. For me, having done that run, these shoes feel very similar on the foot in terms of the overall comfort, the way they hold, the way the uppers flex, all of that stuff. You're getting a very, very similar package. The key difference for me that came out when I did that run was just that the Gel Nimbus, you can feel the higher stack. It sets you up a bit higher. It's also tuned softer and a little bit springier than you'll get on the Kayano 31. This is perhaps not surprising. The Kayano 31 has those stability elements and it has that lower stack, a little bit less foam, really to add that kind of stability to bring that. And it just feels a bit more controlled. It feels a bit flatter when you land. There's not quite as much of a cushion kind of roll through as you'll get with the Nimbus 26. So I think difference here, I mean, I can run in both of these shoes quite happily, even though I don't necessarily need a stability shoe. I think the stability elements on the Kayano 31 are so subtle that I'm quite happy to run in it as well. And I run fine. The one major difference, I think, is just that it's nicely cushioned, but it is a little bit firmer and a little bit more controlled. So for me, one of the big differences when you're thinking about these shoes and how you think about them, if you need more stability, you need more control, you like to feel a bit more kind of firmness in that ride, then go for the Kayano 31. If you want something that's tuned a bit softer, it's a little bit springier, there's a little bit more energy coming back. There's definitely more in the heel, that's the other thing, in the Gel Nimbus 26. That's the shoe to go for. If you need more cushioning because you're landing further back, you're a bit more of a heel striker, that's definitely going to give you a bit more cushion, though I think you're going to sacrifice a little bit of the stability and the control. Overall, I think these shoes are very, very close. There's nothing to choose in terms of weight, and the Kayano 31 really is kind of living up to what the Kayano 30 did in being essentially a more stable alternative to the Gel Nimbus 26. Both of them good, comfort cushioned cruisers for long, easy miles. That's going to be their purpose. And for me, they're pretty interchangeable depending on what you need.
So if I did this versus a few years ago with earlier versions of these shoes, it would be very, very different. But now these shoes have become very similar. The Gel Kayano 31 may be a stability shoe, but it's a stability shoe that has evolved quite a lot over the last 2 iterations and now has become pretty much like a nice, comfortable max cushion shoe. It has stability elements in it, but they are much more subtle than what you would find in earlier versions of the Kayano. So instead of having plasticky medial posts in there and things like that, it actually rides just like a comfortable cushion shoe now. You can still feel those stability elements. When I was out testing it, I tried to run in different ways to feel for the stability in it, and you can feel it when you hit the shoe at an angle. And it's nice to know that that's there. But if you are running consistently and you're not necessarily massively overpronating or anything like that, it just rides like a normal cushioned, comfortable running shoe. And that foam that's in there works really, really well for daily miles, for easy sessions, all those sorts of things, and just feels like you can use it as a normal shoe, which is a big plus point for these new iterations of the Kayano. It really has become a very modern stability shoe now, which I would not have said 2 years ago with the earlier versions of the shoe. Now, if you need stability, it has those elements in it. You definitely get a good level of stability in this shoe. If you don't need stability, and I am told that I need a bit of stability, but I don't really use stability shoes very often, it works perfectly. It's a very comfortable shoe. You can get a nice consistent pace in it. And I've had no issues at all in running in this shoe. It's not the most versatile shoe in the world. You're not going to use it probably if you're doing races or anything like that, unless you're doing races to just maintain a consistent pace and finish it. If you're going for a sub 3 hour marathon, you wouldn't use this shoe because it's a bit clunky. Definitely doesn't have the pickup in it that you might want for running at faster paces. But for most runs, it feels great. It feels really enjoyable and just a very comfortable, cushioned cruiser that gives you stability if you need it. The Gel Nimbus 26. So this saw a big development over the past couple of years as well. The previous version I wasn't a big fan of. The new 2 versions, so this and the 25, really like this shoe. I think it's really come on quite a lot and is one of the best cushion shoes out there at the moment. It's very similar to the Kayano and how it feels. They both have much of the same design elements in them. It's a very comfortable, cushioned cruiser. It doesn't have stability elements in it, but it is quite a stable shoe. It's got quite a big base on it, so no issues there. The midsole foam, it's a bit bouncy in what get in the Kayano, presumably because of the stability elements that are in the Kayano. And as a result, it's a lovely little easy day shoe, lovely daily shoe. And it's slightly more versatile than the Kayano. Not massively, it's not the most versatile shoe in the world, but for some people this shoe would be a great option if you were just buying one shoe and you even wanted to race in it at a comfortable pace. Other than that, I just think that in the realms of cushion shoes at the moment, it's definitely one of the better options out there, and definitely really, really accessible shoe for a lot of people who just want comfort, cushioning, and just a little bit of versatility when it comes to those daily runs. But really, if you compare the 2 shoes, they are getting very similar now, apart from those stability elements. If I took out both of these shoes, the only real difference that I would notice is the extra little bit of bounce. It's not massive, it's not a bouncy shoe in the world, but the midsole does have a little bit more bounce to it than the Kayano. The other thing as well is if I overpronated massively, I would notice that in the Kayano. And even though the stability is fine in the Gel Nimbus 26, it's not a stability shoe, so you won't notice those elements in it. But overall, they are very similar in what they deliver, and really comes down to whether you need those stability elements in the shoe.
So it comes to the run test, I've done a lot of running in both of these shoes. Probably done a bit more in the Kayano actually, as I had it recently in a spell when I didn't have a lot of other shoes, so I used it quite a lot. Done a couple of long runs in the Kayano, 1 long run in the Nimbus. I've done actually a workout in the Nimbus, and then obviously lots of kind of general daily training in them as well, just mooching around. Big cushion shoes. They're definitely comfort first shoes, both of them, it's fair to say, and they are pretty comfortable on the run. I think overall, I've probably had a slightly better time running in the Kayano, which is probably a bit of a surprise for me as I am a neutral runner and I enjoy the Nimbus a lot. But actually, when I look back and I was comparing the Nimbus 25 to the Kayano 29, a lot of similarities in the shoes and how they felt underfoot. I think that's still the case here, and I've actually enjoyed the Kayano a little bit more. Maybe partly because I have the slightly smaller size in it and that's fitted me a bit better. But like I say, I didn't really find the fit of the Nimbus a huge problem, but I did find the ride of the Kayano just little bit more to my taste. It's got a slightly firmer feel, and it feels like it turns over a little bit more easily and naturally for me. Like, it just helps me keep moving. I've got quite a high cadence style, and I feel like it's a shoe that I move through my stride a little bit better than in the Nimbus. It's still a very comfortable shoe. Obviously, you've got the support elements in there, but they're not at all intrusive or anything like that on the run. As a neutral runner, it feels like a comfortable neutral shoe, and I have really enjoyed it for long runs, just ticking over. A little bit of extra support is certainly no bad thing, I think, especially when using shoes in high mileage weeks. Like, if it's not an intrusive element to the shoe, the stability features, then I don't think it's a bad thing to have it, even if you are just a neutral runner, and I have found it a very comfortable shoe. Nimbus is the same. Like, it's got the same kind of feel underfoot because the foams are very similar. You've obviously got little slightly different densities with the 4D guidance system on the Kayano, but it doesn't come across that much. Did a short run wearing both shoes at the same time, and yeah, they do have quite a similar feel in terms of the foam, but like I said, I feel like I just skipped through a little bit better on the Kayano, and it has a slightly firmer feel, which I think I appreciate, because it's not like it's at all firm or uncomfortable, but it is a little bit firmer than Nimbus, which again isn't overly soft and squishy. They are both quite balanced shoes. It's not like you're really sinking into Nimbus, I don't think, but I just find that the overall balance to it is slightly preferred in the Kayano all round. There could be daily trainers and versatile shoes if you're maybe a newer runner, or you just prefer a really protective cushion shoe like this for everything. But for my rotation, I would stick both in very much as the cushion shoe for just easy, slow runs, long runs, that kind of thing. Like, have up the pace in both shoes, and it's not the most comfortable experience just because not really built for that. They don't turn over that well for that kind of speed. And yeah, so all round, I'd certainly would say they're very much cushion shoes for easy runs. On a my run test, I slightly preferred the feel of the Kayano 30. So my verdict to be that I think they're both pretty similar shoes, these two. They're both expensive, they're both pretty comfortable, they both do a similar job of eating up those easy miles, but I prefer the ride feel of the Kayano myself. I am a neutral runner, but the support you get here is not intrusive or unwelcome in any way, so I enjoyed the feeling I got from it on long runs, and I do think, like I say, in the run test, it turns over a little bit better for me than the Gel Nimbus 26, but it is pretty close between them. I think it's also very close between these shoes and the previous generation. Like, there's not a lot in it, and it is often discounted now, the older shoe. When it comes to picking between the Nimbus 26 and 25, I think I actually preferred the Gel Nimbus 25 in terms of ride feel, so I'd look for a deal on the old shoe for sure with that one. But if you are sticking to the latest generations, I'd say certainly give the Kayano a chance and maybe give it a try, even if you're a neutral runner and you're just instinctively reaching for the Nimbus because it is the shoe designed for neutral runners. But actually, I think the feel of the Kayano is really good, and it's a shoe that anyone can appreciate regardless of whether you need stability or not. I said Nimbus is a good shoe as well, a nice cushion shoe, but yeah, I prefer the Kayano.
So my verdict on these two shoes, pretty simple really. If it was me, I don't necessarily need stability in my shoes, so I would go for the Gel Nimbus 26. I think it's very comfortable, enjoyable, daily, easy shoe to wear. I think it's I've never had any issues with it. It's not my favourite cushion shoe. I'd still go for something like the New Balance More V4 because I just like the way that rides a bit more. I think it's got a little bit more of a fluid transition, and I prefer the foam in that shoe. But this is up there. It's one of the best ones out there at the moment. Well worth looking at if cushioning and comfort is your focus. If I needed some stability elements in my shoe, I would definitely go for the Kayano now. It's one of the best stability shoes out there. It really delivers an enjoyable, comfortable experience that doesn't necessarily feel like a stability shoe for most of the time. But if you don't need stability, you don't need those elements, and you still get a little bit more pop, a little bit more versatility from the Gel Nimbus 26. So if you're choosing between these two shoes, it really comes down to whether you need stability or not. I think now with the new developments in the Kayano, it means that if you do need stability, you're not losing a lot from these shoes. Previously, you might be a bit annoyed that you had to wear the older Kayanos because they weren't very versatile at all. They did feel a bit clunky, and it was a bit unfair on stability runners that they had to use that shoe and there wasn't another option for them. Now, I think if you need a bit of stability, you're not going to lose a lot from getting the Kayano over the Gel Nimbus 26, but you still get the 26 if you didn't have any stability issues.
Verdict then, well, the Nimbus 26 and the Kayano 31 deliver cushion protective rides that soak up slower daily miles really well. They'll both happily manage long runs in comfort and cater for your easy everyday recovery runs, those kind of things. Now, which shoe you choose between these two, I think, will just depend on whether or not you need stability. If you do, the Kayano 31 is the shoe for you. If you run in neutral shoes, the Nimbus 26 is probably the better option. I think the Nimbus 26 on balance is a better shoe overall, offering more response, a somewhat smoother ride, and a bit more overall agility. If you're a heel striker, I think there's more cushioning at the back here to help with that too. If you've used the Nimbus 26 though and found yourself wanting a similar ride, just with some added control and a bit more stability, the Kayano 31 is a great option. If you're a neutral runner and you want a shoe that's a shade firmer, the Kayano 31 stability is also subtle enough that I think you can choose this shoe too, but just get a little bit of a firmer, more controlled ride. Now, for good stability alternatives to the Kayano 31, I think lots of runners swear by the Nike Invincible 3. I don't particularly get on with that shoe, but I know people like it. For me, the Saucony Tempest or the Saucony Guide 17 and the Brooks GTS also make for great options. Check those out. For soft protective landings with a touch more up-tempo ability, the Brooks Ghost Max and the Saucony Ride 17 and the New Balance 1080 V13 I think are all worthy alternatives to the Nimbus 26, so check those out. We've got reviews of all of those shoes on the channel, so be sure to go and have a hunt and see what we made of them. So there you have it. That was our head-to-head between the ASICS Gel Nimbus 26 and the ASICS Gel Kayano 31. We hope you found it useful. Hit like and maybe share it if you did. If you're not already, we'd love it if you'd hit subscribe as well. If you're after a good daily trainer guide, I'm going to pop a video up now that might be well worth a watch. That should be of interest to you. Go and watch it. Otherwise, thanks for stopping by. We hope to see you again soon on the channel. But in the meantime, happy running, people.